Hey guys, welcome to Monday Mindset Mojo. Man, we've got a panel for you guys today from the life of hard knocks, and we're going to learn today that it's not tough situations that build toughness, it's really tough thinking that does. And so, my wonderful guests today are going to be sharing some real world stories of how they've hit the wall, they've conquered some of those faulty, sabotaging beliefs, and in doing so, they've rebuilt stronger mindsets, and they've done that by choosing smarter pathways forward no matter what the circumstances are. So it's not about emotions, it's about the choices that your brain makes under pressure. And we're going to learn today from our wonderful guest, DrewCouver, crisis thinking strategist, mindset rewiring expert, AwsmMary. Love Mary. She's a creative problem solver and what you might refer to as a mental agility architect. Elizabeth, a relationship mindset strategist, great spaces on X, along with my friend Jaine, who is a life reinvention specialist, and she's pivoting from, healthcare to AI. Man, spooky AI stuff. And so today we're going to be talking about how mindset really gets revealed under pressure and how to build a resilient mindset all on your own, how to identify some of those outdated beliefs that really do get in the way. You know, outdated beliefs are a little bit like hurdles on the road of life, and they get in the way of smarter decision making. We're going to talk about some relationship errors, some relationship kerfuffles that tend to be caused by some faulty assumptions, and some cognitive upgrades to fix those things. And then how do you reinvent your identity? You know, really how you look at yourself, what you offer up of yourself to folks out there in the world. And so, welcome to today's Monday Mindset Mojo. We're going to take a trip down the tough roads of life and hopefully develop some smarter maps for getting through your day. And it's wonderful to see you guys here today. Drew, AwsmMary, Elizabeth. Now, Jimmy hasn't been able to get on just yet, but maybe he will. My friend Jaine from the look at that little Garden of Eden that Jaine is setting in. What a wonderful backdrop. And it's so good to see you guys here today. But I'm going to start out with Jaine and kind of, talk about, Jaine, you come from the field of nursing. So I really
Yes.
can't imagine a more stress-filled environment than nursing. And so, how many years did you have as a nurse, and how did you survive all that?
30 years pretty much, take or give. How did I survive it? Well, I liked my work. I really enjoyed what I did, but there were rough times, and there were times sometimes I'd have to take a leave of absence or an extended vacation or something, or sometimes take a break when I would change jobs or whatnot. But yeah, it's not an easy profession at all. And I worked in critical care, so it was pretty intense, but I was kind of like that kind of thing and
You
made
you
it
you kind of
interesting.
liked
That's
it.
how I survived.
Did you say that you
Yeah.
kind of liked it?
Yeah, I liked critical care. It was a lot of fun. But the survival, probably the hardest part was the people part, dealing with coworkers and bosses and things like that. No problem with the patients or my ability to do my work, but I always had problems, I always ran into problems with the people or my coworkers. Just yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about some of that. How do sometimes you're right. It's not just the job, it's not just the day to day turning widgets, it's really dealing with the people. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to effectively deal with people who can be really, really challenging. But I'm going to go to Drew, and Drew, give us a little bit of the backdrop of your life and how you've chosen to kind of reset your mindset where you can tackle some hard things. And thanks so much, my friend, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Doctor. Just a quick synop. I had a pretty difficult life growing up as a child with, coming from a home with six brothers and sisters. Fell into some addiction, fell into some very hard times in my early 20s, lived on the street for a couple of years. and something happened where I just snapped. It was just like a hard snap. I call it drop the bomb technique. But I completely changed my life and went on a little bit of a football career in the U.S. and Canada. Broken back, which basically ended my career, which was another like shock. How to change that? Got into fostering and was a private contractor with our federal and provincial governments up here in Canada. And I did that for 21 years in my own home, where I actually raised my biological son by myself for 21 years. I had 970 placements throughout my time working. These were the kids that basically they came out of the womb with the worst poker hand that you could ever imagine. Everything was lined up against them. And, chemically dependent, criminally active, the class of kids that particularly would try to steer your children, your grandchildren away from. But, in 2021, with the whole COVID, and I had to, change again. So here I am. I've got my mediation and I got into some schooling to find out whether or not I was going to go and continue to do the work that I've loved and I've admired my whole life, which is really helping people find their beauty within themselves so that they can move through difficult times. I do deal in interventions. I do deal in mediation. So I'm consistently in battles with people. Actually, I'm not in battles with people. People are in battles with me. But I try to help them understand that they're good people. I try to get them to relate to opportune times in their life so that they can reflect back to find that power within. I believe it's the power within, that everyone has a key to their own power, and to move swiftly through difficult times. And especially now, sir, there's just so much uncertain for everyone in North America. So that's a little bit about me.
Man, that is really, really incredible. I want to come back to Drew momentarily and hear some more stories there. And once we get through, I'd like to hear from Mary and from Elizabeth. And if Jimmy makes it, we'll hear from him. But Jimmy was having some technological difficulties. But what I'm going to ask you guys in a moment is to kind of share time where you hit that proverbial wall. I think it's important to share out really wonderful things that happen. And but I really appreciate the panel today. Being very genuinely human, like Jaine and Drew just were. And we'll talk more about what do you do when nothing seems to be working. What sometimes when you really had to rethink and retool and redesign and kind of remap your life. But I will go to Mary. Mary, it's wonderful to see you here today. I know it's really early where you are, but give us kind of a setting of your journey so far, how you got on social media, what you're discovering about life in the area where you live. What do you think?
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Heath. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here in your panel. It's definitely an honor. It is early here in Colorado, Mountain Time. It's the sun's just coming up and I can see it right outside of my office window. So it's beautiful, beautiful. I come from a very unique background. I was actually raised in a religious cult and from the ages 8 till the age of 25 years old. And so my perspective in life was very different because we were very isolated from the real world. And finally, when my husband at the time and I decided that we were going to leave the cult, I think that's when I hit my first wall in my life, and I really did not know what to expect. Even though we didn't live within a commune or anything, but our rules did come straight from the cult itself and the way they interpreted the Bible. So I I came out and I started working in the real world, and got an amazing job and traveled the world and everything. Um, as far as hitting a wall, I think some of the things that were embedded in me with their teachings was gosh, um, they didn't allow mistakes, which created from me to be a perfectionist. And I do remember when I just couldn't keep up with that anymore. And I do believe that that's when I hit my second wall, of always trying to be perfect, always trying to be like, um, um, not being real, not being a real individual, of not showing anybody um, my frailties or vulnerabilities. So that was yeah. And so
That's
mhm,
amazing. And as you're speaking, Mary, I'm a cult fan. As in, I love studying cults. I think a lot of
mhm,
people do. I think from the outside in, they're fascinating. From the inside out, they're just traumatic. But it dawns on me that even folks who have never seen a cult, they've never been part of a cult, that
mhm.
we can develop a bit of a cult mindset for
Yes,
ourselves
yes,
where we are the cult leader trying to live up to some, mountaintop trophy level mindset that is just not realistic. I think that, and I'd love to hear about that because the people that I've worked with really kind of take that cult mindset with them. They leave the cult, but the cult never leaves them. Have you
yes.
found that to be true in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was it is really interesting how, coming into a cult, I mean, I grew up in it, so I had no choice. It was through my mom who got involved in it. And as if as you know, because you've studied cults, is they usually target people who are very vulnerable. And at the time, my dad had just had a stroke, and my mom was very vulnerable at the time. And these people came and they helped her out and they love bombed her. And so she felt, obligated to them to, yeah, hey, yeah, a little Bible study here and there at our house and everything. So, to go back to your question is, what was your question? Sorry.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. People leave the cult, but the cult mindset.
Oh, yeah,
I
yes, yes.
think sometimes it's really easier to get a person out of a cult
Yes,
than to
yes,
get the cult mindset out of the person.
yes. I do, I find, like for example, I was in a MLM group, and I felt, I
Now, what
could
does
see
that
it. I
stand for? I'm sorry. What MLM?
Multi-level marketing
Oh,
program,
okay. Yeah.
where you sell like a product, and you try to recruit people to sell it under you. And going to these conventions, it did feel very cultish. um, i'm I'm very sensitive to cult behavior, where I can see it. But I will admit that there was a time where I actually went back to the cult, even though I had left like for 10 years already. And I went back in, and then I realized, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I left again. So yeah, it can be, hard. And I'll tell you one last thing real quickly, is inside the cult, everything, well, at least the cult that I was in, it was very utopian. Everything was like, oh, God loves you, I love you. You didn't see a lot of negativity. So coming out into the world, quote unquote, to see a lot of negativity and people fighting and things like that, yeah, it made me want to go back. But then soon, after being gone for 10 years, then I realized how controlling they are of your life. So I didn't want to monopolize the rest of your time. So,
No, that
but
is just, man, I'm so glad you're
yeah.
here. That's so fascinating. I have a bit of a curveball, and many of you listening, you may disagree with this, but I've worked with addiction, folks trying to recover from addiction for 4 decades. And one thing I've noticed is the whole alcohol lifestyle is very much like Mary just described it. It's cult like in that everything is utopia. What comes to mind is the Cheers song, place where everybody knows your name. And everything seems to be utopia with the alcohol. And then you stay away from it, and then people relapse back into the alcohol because they think that that's utopia. And it really does. I mean, a cult or alcohol or meth or cocaine, it's really the cult of the drug life, whether it's a drug on the inside of your brain or a drug that you introduce to your brain. People relapse into a cult or into alcoholism or other types of drug use because of the supposed marketed utopia. I mean, you've never seen a Budweiser commercial where it shows the shrapnel in people's lives caused by the alcohol. You typically, back when they used to advertise cigarettes on TV, which they don't anymore. It's kind of weird. We advertise alcohol but not cigarettes. But no, you didn't see the people with good grief, Jane, what is it? The ostomy, and where they would have to. I remember walking into a long-term care facility room where the person had a portion of their vocal cords removed because of the throat cancer, and they were talking with a device that sounded mechanical like this because of the tobacco. Life is full of things that operate like cults, but we have different names for it. Alcohol, the bar, your drinking buddies. I love country music, but you'll rarely hear a country music song that doesn't talk favorably about alcohol. So if you think about it, alcohol itself is a bit of a cult. I want to go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, the cult of love. Elizabeth does all kinds of spaces on love and relationships. Elizabeth, tell us about what you do on X and your journey so far, whatever you'd like to share, please.
After Mary, I feel a little bit concerned because my story is not so deep, but I actually love listening about cults too. So even when I saw the Mary's message about cults, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be interesting. So regarding me, I think that I'm right now, I'm actually at the point where I hit the wall. So I think that's this. I wanted to say space, but live stream will be hopefully helpful for me. I'm on X. I don't know why I'm on X. I joined not so long time ago. I'm 24. I've been traveling since I'm 19. I don't have higher education. I work in tech. I love talking about relationships because I know nothing about relationships, and that makes it more fun. And what helps me not be very close to the wall all the time is therapy. Now, by the way, I'm not in the therapy because I quit my previous therapist because I didn't like him. But before, it was very helpful. It helped me a lot. So I think if you hit the wall, therapists can also help a lot. So yeah, Dr. Hiss, that's it.
Well, Elizabeth, now I love your spaces because you have people that come on and share such fascinating stories, and it's people that have run into roadblocks in relationships. It's people that are struggling with relationships. It's people, sometimes they've given up on relationships. So what are some of the stories that you hear, some of the struggles that you hear from people in the relationship sphere?
Oh, well, a lot. As I say, my ideal type in the spaces is someone who is heartbroken or divorced or been in a long-term relationship and then, nothing worked out. Usually there are a few major things that are pretty repetitive. I think that's cheating problem all the time, emotional or physical cheating. For people who have been single for a while, it's just finding someone new that it's hard because where would I find someone? I don't know. If I don't work offline, it's only dating apps. I hate dating apps, things like that. I think that's another problem. And also type of communication problems. So it's if they're in a relationship, someone said something, I didn't understand it, I didn't want to double check, what should I say? And I think overthinking and overcomplicating a lot of stuff, and spaces are more fun when people share the stories and we overthink it together. And usually if you have a therapist in the space, for example, you or someone else, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but someone who has some kind of experience with that in a more professional way, they usually structure it in a way, and it helps a lot for guys, because I think that also not a lot of people that come to my spaces, and in general, not a lot of people who have relationship issues want to share it with their friends, with their families. That it's getting a little bit difficult for them, and it's easier to do it in a space when nobody looks at them, nobody knows them. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I love spaces because on X, by the way, not everybody on this on our show today is or watching are on X, but on X, folks, X has these things called spaces. They're audio. Uh, no one knows who you are unless you tell them who you are, and so I think there's a value in the anonymity of being able to share your story and not have to hold back. And so I love Elizabeth Spaces for that reason. But I want to ask Elizabeth and Jaine, because Jaine does some wonderful spaces too. Why do you think people struggle so much with communication in relationships? That seems to be a really big issue that people these days, maybe they never have, but moreover these days, people just don't know how to communicate. Jaine, what do you think?
Oh boy, yeah. I think it's because, especially on X, and everybody's coming from a different perception. Everybody's got a different perception, and so and also I do think a lot of trouble happens when in text messages and things like that. If somebody texts somebody and it does, the tone of the text sounds funny, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, no, that's not what I meant, but by that time it's too late. um, if you're in spaces, not so much problem there, but the communication is, yeah, it's just trying to, people thinking they know what you're thinking. And it's like, nobody knows what I'm thinking, and I don't know what anybody else is thinking. But I catch myself sometimes thinking, well, oh, they think this. And I have to verbally tell myself, Jaine, you have no clue what that person's thinking. It's a little avatar on a screen. What the
That's
heck are
right.
you doing?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
amused. It's absolutely silly for me to sit and try to figure out what's going on in somebody else's head. So I just pull myself back and say, come on now, knock it off. It's not even that important.
The thing about hard roads in life is that when you're on a really tough road, then the part of your brain that is meant to protect you from grizzly bear attacks, I call it the grizzly alarm system, uh, the GAS, your brain hits the gas to help you run away fast. And when you're on a hard road in life, you may have lost a job or a relationship ended in a messy way, then automatically that threat detection radar is lit up. So you bring that with you to every conversation, every SMS or text exchange, every space. You bring that with you. And the problem with that is the other person is usually not a grizzly bear. The other person is usually not the threat that you tell yourself that they are. As a matter of fact, they may be trying to help you in good faith, but you are falsely identifying them, it's called a false positive, as a threat to you. And one thing I would say that I think I have discussed in some of Elizabeth's spaces is that, especially if you're coming off of a difficult relationship, you will sabotage every future relationship if you're not careful by making the new person pay for the difficulty that you had in the previous relationship. Until you remind yourself, oh, wait, stop, breathe, think, and reset. Stop, breathe, think, and reset. Stop, breathe, think, and reset. And that is reminding yourself this is a new day, a new opportunity, a new person. I would guess, Mary, that, having gotten away from this cult, that you tended to, when you met people, I mean, maybe somewhere in your mind, you began to wonder, gosh, are they going to take advantage of me too? Did that ever happen to you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, being in a group like that, where you believe that they were it. I mean, I really did think that, we were special. And then to find out that it was not what it seemed to be. Um, all my formative years living, being there, and having the beliefs, in me. Yeah, absolutely. Trust issues, big time trust issues, because you think, oh man, this is going too good right now. Um, is this real? Is
Mm.
this
And
just
you know
like a,
that's not altogether bad. I mean, I think that can keep us safe. But
Mhm,
like any tool, it can be misapplied. It can be
mhm,
used in situations that don't merit that tool. And let me give you guys my second curveball of the day. My second curveball is that trust, contrary to what you've always heard, trust is not earned. Trust is a gift that you give people because trust is a tool. You know, I have to decide, as do you, is this a situation where trust is properly and wisely applied or not? Maybe I don't need trust in this situation. Maybe what I really need is proof. But see, proof and trust compete with each other. You have to decide which to use. If Jimmy came here, Jimmy's not here today, so we'll pick on Jimmy a little bit, but in good nature, good friend of mine. It's good to see Jimmy. But let's just say that Jimmy knocked on my door and says, Dr. Heath, I'm having this terrible anxiety, and I say, you know what, Jimmy, man, I can fix that up quick, fast, and in a hurry. I just have to go to my garage, make sure the battery for my power drill is charged up. We'll drill a burr hole in your head and you'll never have anxiety ever again. Well, see, that is not, I'm not a neurosurgeon, by the way. Uh, that is not something where trust would be properly applied. I would expect that he would need proof of that. Are you certified to drill holes in people's heads with power drills? And so ask yourself in relationships, especially if you're on a hard road of life, is my fight or flight system activated? And if so, how might it be sabotaging me? And given that, I need to be very careful with the slide rule of, do I need proof here or do I need trust here? What parent has a 11-year-old that says, Mommy, Daddy, I want to drive the family station wagon? Gosh, do they even have station wagons anymore? I grew up riding in the back of a station wagon. Mommy and Daddy, I want to drive the station wagon. Well, of course, because we trust you. No, 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 terrible idea. What you need is proof, and that proof happens at a certain age. If Jaine, as wonderful a nurse as she was, shows up to the airport and tells United Airlines, I want to fly the airplane. I'm ready to go. I'm pumped up. No, we don't need trust in that situation. And not having trust is not a bad thing. We need proof that she knows how to fly the freaking airplane. Trust and proof are the flip sides of basically the same coin in life. They're both tools. You need to decide how to apply one or the other. And this is really, really hard if you've had a hard road in life, like Mary. And I want to go to Drew because, Drew, with the work that you do, I would expect that you run into lots of people that they suffer from what is called in my profession over assimilation. Since there have been people who've mistreated me in the past, I'm going to assume that you're going to mistreat me and I can never trust anyone ever again. And how do you kind of help people get beyond that?
Interestingly enough, I've had a lot of kids, and that age too, where it's like they're 12 to 15, where they're coming out, they're becoming an adult. I truly believe they're kids, and they've been completely abused, they've been neglected, and they've moved in with me. They've moved into one of my homes, and they start feeling as though, whoa, hey, I can trust this person, or I can trust one of these people, and they open up a bit. It's really, really important to during those times to recognize that that child or that client is trying to reach out to give you trust, and it is a tool, like you said, and it's so important to respond to that in such a healthy way, where they understand you're there for them and you're caring for them. Because if you don't act that way, they will bottle back up and they will go back in and they will take off and run the other way, just like you said, the grizzly, the what did you call it, the grizzly,
Yeah, the grizzly alarm system. The brain
yeah, the
hits the
grizzly, and
gas.
they'll just turn around and take off. So it's imperative to be able to read those moments in your clients, in the people around. I mean, not your clients, but just your brothers and sisters, your friends and your families, the loved ones close to you. Something that Jaine said that really twitched me there. We're all in spaces now, and we don't get an opportunity to sit down with one another around a table at a coffee shop. And there is so much that is not seen when you're not in the physical presence of someone else. And I just found these spaces a few months ago, and I came on to some of them, and you're just talking, you hear someone's just talking, and then all of a sudden someone just bites, someone just yelling at you, and they're just yelling. They're like, no, that's not right. You're just going like, what just happened? Well, there was a trigger point, right? I mean, there was a trigger point, something happened, and that wouldn't happen when you're in a physical space with someone. So I really try to implore people to get into people's physical space, and it's so important, right? It's such a valuable asset to see when someone is going to that open up trust space, and to really harness it and follow up with them. I really heard this is what I think I heard you say. Is this right? You got to actually ask them clarification, because they could say something to you and you can respond to them. And without that asking back, hey, is this what I think you said? You may be completely off.
Oh yeah, yeah. I tell folks all the time that I work with clients and patients alike that communication is specifically and purposefully engineered to be messy. Specifically, and now why is that? Why would communication be on purpose engineered to be messy? Well, because if it wasn't, we would spend less effort than we already do connecting to other people. We already don't spend enough effort connecting to people and connecting deeply. So if communication was just, computer like, a bunch of zeros and ones, and I could spend 15 seconds communicating with Jane or Elizabeth and they picked up on it, then actually we would have less reason to more deeply develop the relationship. So let's turn that on its head, folks, in your relationships, and view the difficulty in communication as a blessing, as a tool to do exactly what Drew just said, and work harder to understand each other at a deeper level. The messiness of communication has such great potential to deepen and to deeply cultivate relationships to a level that you never dreamed of. By the way, you can also kind of make a game out of it if you've been in a relationship long enough, like my wife and I has. One of my favorite things over the last couple of years is to actually tell her what I thought I heard her say. And she'll look at me like I'm a crazy person, which she's probably not far off. And she'll say, what are you talking about? I didn't say that. And I'll say, no. I literally heard you say that you need to take the cabbages and put them in the gas tank. Is that not what you said? Or some crazy thing like that. And so get some, add some humor into your connection. Just make sure the other person's okay with it. But once again, thank you guys for being here. Hey, there's Jimmy. Good to see you there, Jimmy. Sorry you couldn't get on today. We will try it again. We would love to have you guest on here. But you guys, if you have a comment, go ahead and put it in the chat. I love what Nino Gaetano said. Life isn't always easy to make it. isn't always easy. To make it easier, it's about making ourselves stronger mentally and physically. Yeah, I was thinking about that just yesterday. When you don't know what to do, one thing you can do is take a walk, or you can do something to take care of yourself. Take a shower, wash your face, brush your hair. Do something for yourself, because that gives you fuel, important fuel for the journey. Good morning to you also, Richard. Also love to hear some comments here. We'll be here for about the next 35 minutes, guys. So we actually longer than that. Yeah, about 35 minutes or 40 minutes, something like that. But I'd love to hear from you guys some of your thoughts. And you guys on stage here, thank you so much, Jaine, Elizabeth, Mary, and Drew. Let me move on here and ask my next question that I'd sent over to you guys yesterday. What have you found is maybe one belief or mindset or assumption that you had to get rid of? You know, look at this assumption as a big chasm in the road, something you had to get over, go around, or get rid of, so that you could keep moving your life forward. Because I found for myself, and I found in the lives of people that I work with, that until they know the thoughts that are sabotaging them, they're going to keep on being sabotaged. Until you know about the thoughts sabotaging you, they will sabotage you forever. So it's kind of like, I like to describe it as termites in the walls of your mindset. Now think about that for a moment. Are you better off knowing about the termites in your wall, or, oh, stop telling me about my termites, I'm so sick and tired of people telling me about the termites in the wall? Or are you better off knowing about them, as painful as it may be, so that you could do something about those termites, those mental termites? So looking for some self-disclosure here, guys, and I'll share one of mine. I still struggle with it, and that is thinking that I'm right. You know, I mean, why am I not right? Of course I'm right. What are you talking about? You know? So
There we go.
luckily, I've had the Creator himself put somebody in my life who challenges that on a daily basis. No, you're not right. And often she is right about me not being right. This blessing has a name, and the name is my wife. You know, so she shares with me. But what's a belief that you had to kind of sacrifice or second think, that you found out this belief was getting in your way? What do you think, Jaine?
Oh boy. You know what? I spent 3/4 of my life thinking that I was the one that was upsetting people. I thought it was my fault when somebody would be upset about something. I always thought, oh man, what did you do wrong this time? Why, you're always doing something wrong and getting people upset. Why do people get so upset with you all the time? And and I say all the time because like I was so focused on that, I guess. I thought it was my fault. And it's not my fault. And I learned that in your space. That was like a revelation to me when you said that you're not responsible for how another person responds to something that you're doing. They can respond any way they want to, and you can do what you're doing, and it's not your fault. But I always thought when somebody would get upset with me that it was something wrong with me, that I'm deficient someplace. And that would cause me great inner harm. I would turn all that anger into myself instead of confronting the situation and then being able to be calm about it and say, look, I did what I did. I'm sorry you feel the way you feel, but I didn't cause that. It's not my, so that is such a freeing thing. I'm like so free now. It's like I finally have this voice inside me that says, you know what, Jaine? It's okay to be you. You can be yourself. Stop trying to please everybody. Because you know what? You're never going to please anybody because there's always going to be one person that's not going to like the way you are. And get over yourself. And
Yeah,
just
I don't mind pleasing people. If you guys came here, I would be more than happy to get you a cup of what I'm drinking.
oh yeah.
Whether you like it or not is up to you. All I can do is serve it up. You get to decide whether to like it or not. Why does everybody in the world have to like what I provide? Why does everybody in the world have to agree with what I had to say? Why does everybody in the world have to have fuzzy wuzzies when I speak or when they're around me? Well, they don't. I'm a free will guy. I fully believe in human rights. And it's even in what a friend of mine calls the Constitution of the United States of America. Don't you love malapropisms? The Constitution of the United States of America. And I believe that we are all created equally, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the right to be as freaking miserable as you decide to be. Now, that's my twist on it. But don't people have the right to choose misery? I think they do. I mean, why can't people be miserable if they choose to be miserable? So, Jaine, when you're doing something that people disagree with, why wouldn't they have the right to choose to disagree with it or to not like it, for heaven's sakes? What if you're serving boiled cabbage? Do they got like boiled cabbage because you serve it up? I mean, I don't like boiled cabbage. I like you. But I love what Mojo said. Hey, Mojo, man, speaking my language here, buddy. Mojo says each person has a unique flavor. Yeah, yeah. And on that, Mojo, man, I'm just going to go ahead. I love the picturesque speech. Each person has a unique flavor, so we as humans taste differently in the brains of everyone that encounters us. For instance, I think that there are some really weird people in the world. You might have noticed. And these people do not like, for whatever reason, I can't understand it. They do not like pineapple pizza. It's a strange thing. I really don't know what to think about these people that don't like pineapple pizza. But they do have the right to not like it. So one of the things that we can do to make the road of life tougher, is to expect camaraderie from everybody, to expect approval from everybody. Now think about that. Why would you expect approval from everybody? Now that's 8 billion people. When you know, my dear listeners and my dear panel, that you do not agree or approve of those 8 billion people yourself, nor do you want to be forced to agree or approve of those 8 billion people. So think about that the next time you're thinking someone doesn't approve of you. You don't approve of many of the 8 billion people on the planet. And so this kind of takes us to my next point. We're going to kind of mesh these together, breaking beliefs, because one of the beliefs that I broke is what Jaine talked about. Because I used to think that it was a bit of a catastrophe if someone didn't like me for some reason. For heaven's sakes, am I not likable enough? What am I doing wrong if you don't like me? Well, let me take it back to my cabbage example. What is a cabbage doing wrong if people don't like cabbage? Maybe the cabbage didn't do anything wrong. The cabbage is just being a cabbage, and even though it's doing the best job it can at being a cabbage, still not everyone will like that cabbage. Some people just don't. And they also don't like pineapple on pizza. Hey, what about you, Elizabeth? Do you like pineapple on pizza?
I actually love it.
I knew
So,
I liked you for some reason. Yeah, I'm going to start vetting people before they can be on the show. I'll give them the pineapple pizza quiz. If they fail it, of course, they can't be on the show. No, I'm just joking. But Elizabeth, what do you hear about that? Do you hear people that come into your spaces and they do struggle with that? They just struggle that, they thinking that everyone must like them, and like Mojo said, they expect them to be everyone else's favorite flavor.
Yeah, I struggle with that too. But I noticed that like a lot of women struggle with that. There are a lot of men who don't care about that at all. But when it
Right.
comes to women, we think a lot if someone likes us or not. I said it in one of the spaces that I'm literally the same person, that I adjust myself so much to the persons that I'm talking to. Sometimes I feel like I don't know who I am even. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to say what helps me a lot is detachment. I don't know if that's working here a lot, but whenever I feel like I'm too stressed because someone, like I want someone to like me, especially in my space or just at work, I just kind of like detach. So it's like not me who is going through it, but it's like another Elizabeth, and I'm like outside of the situation, and I'm just like looking at this from the outside, and I'm like, okay, it's not a big deal. Like probably I'm not going to talk to this person for that long. Like even if something goes wrong, still it's going to be all right. It's not going to change anything in my life, and yeah, and that helps me a lot. But in spaces, it's a constant problem, and even with okay, maybe I'm
Little
mine.
pup, who are you barking at?
Go ahead,
Men
Elizabeth.
who men who get out of long-term relationship, I've seen a lot in my spaces that they struggle with when they meet a new woman and they want her to like them a lot, and they don't know how, like what to do because they haven't been on the dating scene for a long time. And I see that, yeah, sometimes they do or say things that are not really true to themselves just because they want to get her, and then it never works out, as a spoiler. But it's always a wonderful story to hear. So yeah.
I love that, and I meant to mention something earlier. There's a pair of twin concepts. I mentioned one, over assimilation, and this is where Elizabeth spoke and Drew spoke and Mary spoke about it also. Is thinking that a past situation is going to be repeated or replicated in the future. So if I had a difficult situation in this relationship, it means I'm going to have a difficult relationship in the next relationship. That's over assimilation. Assimilation isn't a bad thing. We assimilate skill sets from driving one vehicle to driving another, from living in one home to living in a different home, from talking to one person to talking to another person. That's assimilation. Over assimilation is when we go too far with that and we think that literally the past is a predictor of our future, and it's just not. You know, that's a very sabotaging belief because every situation is different, every person is different. Now, the other concept is over accommodation, and Jaine spoke to this too. Over accommodation is changing your beliefs about yourself in a way that is not healthy for you. And so Elizabeth noted this when she said, I change myself so much for other people, I don't even know who I am. And that is over accommodation. If you're going to go through a hard road in life, you need some tools, a mental toolkit that just never changes. This may be a collection of, I know I have what it takes. If I look at my history of surviving things, I've survived some really tough things, which means I know how to survive. And I can apply my previous survival skills to future situations. I know I'm a person of worth. I don't have to take a vote on my worth when I get into a new relationship. That question, if it ever was, has already been solved. And one of the things I see people, and I'm gonna go to Drew here momentarily, and Mary, especially with cults, is people come to believe that in the absence of this other person, that they lack worth, or in the absence of a group, they lack worth. Like, who am I if I'm not a part of this, you know, whatever, local basketball team or something? Who am I if I'm no longer working for this company? Or who am I if all my children are grown and they no longer depend on me? Or who am I if someone else looks at me and tells me that I'm useless or worthless or a waste of space? Drew, how do you help folks that you worked with maintain that that knowledge of not a sense. People talk about a sense of self. I think that's confusing. I think you need to have a knowledge of yourself. And I mean line item mental coding that's very specific of who you are. So how do you help people regain that, Drew? What do you think?
Well, that's a really open-ended one. If I can reflect back to a time when I was about 35, running an emergency resource for youth, and I had a single child and my own son. I felt as though, and just to tie up the other two, um, I was spreading myself out way too much, and I was trying to make everyone happy, and I was that person, right? And it was just so hard on myself. I had to. I knew I was going to fall if I didn't figure out what it was I needed to do for myself. So what I do with people is I try to help people find out what they desire to do. And it could be something as simple as, they crochet, or they, go to the park and just shoot the basketball. Get right down to the grassroots of who are you. Find out what it is you like to do and practice it. Get to know yourself, because we get lost in this relationship in life, with all these people, and you're surrounded by so many people, and we're always trying to please other people, and it's so sad. I see the snaps all the time. I see the mental breakdowns all the time as a result of this. Everyone's focused on others and not themselves. And I think that's something that we're really lacking in life. We need to figure out who we are, what we like to do, and really figure out how to get there. And it could just be as simple as, asking your partner, asking your friend, "Hey, I've noticed this is going on. What's happening with you? Can I help you or assist you in doing something that you enjoy?" Because we forget about who we are, and it's so crucial to me to figure it out. Because if I'm not okay with me, I cannot be there for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a fact. So, I do things like I have an ice tub in my backyard. I get up in the morning at 5 o'clock. I sit in that thing. It's 2 degrees. And that
How
brings
long do
me
you
to
stay?
to about a minute and a half to 2 minutes.
Okay.
But I get in there, and, I used to meditate, but I'd meditate for like 40 minutes every day, twice a day. And I've done this off and on for years, but I found the ice tub. It puts me into that place right away, and one of the hardest things you can do. It's bringing pain into your life, but it sets you up to a place where you are by yourself, and then you have to be okay with yourself. So I know I wouldn't recommend this to anyone unless you're doing it with other people, but find something that you love to do. It's so important. We live a life of, we're always trying to please others, we're always trying to be there for other people, and it's so important to not forget about who the most important person in your life is, and that's you, even if you've been married for 30 years.
Well, I often quote Stephen Covey: "Have you ever been too busy driving to stop and get gas?" And remembering who you are is also remembering what fuels you,
Yeah.
and you're not doing anybody else a favor by not realizing what fuels you. And it starts very simple. It's not all that complicated. It's not a some type of quantum physics equation. It starts with, I'm a person who, fill in the blank. I'm a person that, fill in the blank. And I'll give you a few of mine. I'm a person that makes the bed in the morning. Right before this, I was actually scooting around pretty quickly to get the bed made. Why would I do that? Because I'm a person who makes the bed in the morning. That's what I do. I'm a person that puts up the dishes in the morning. Dishwasher's right over there. Why do I do that? Because I'm a person that makes and keeps agreements, and makes and keeps agreements with myself. Your brain pays attention to whether you make agreements with yourself or whether you're kind of, flimsy with those. As my dad would say, catch a catch can. And moreover, your brain pays attention if you keep those agreements that you make with yourself. So you can actually train your brain to get worse at keeping agreements with yourself. And those people who aren't good at keeping agreements with themselves, guess what? And this is for Elizabeth, because you do these wonderful relationship spaces. One of the things to look for on a date, listen to what a person says they're going to do and then watch and see if they do it, especially with themselves. I think maybe the best time for a date, by the way, is February. Mark it down, February. Best time to date is February. But the punchline's
It's
coming.
spring.
Hold on for it. Yeah, spring is coming, but not the spring you're thinking about, because that's about a month after New Year's. So what about this? You'll hear people talk about New Year's resolutions. The rates and frequency of whether they kept those tells you a lot about them. Because if they made themselves a New Year's resolution and they didn't keep it, then there is a higher chance they're going to make and not keep commitments to you. If you don't keep commitments with yourself, there's a higher likelihood that you will not keep commitments to other people. I told you guys that we were going to be here and get started about 15 minutes before the hour. And believe me, that was on my mind. I'm watching the clock. You know, do I leave the bed unmade and have this live stream, or do I have the live stream and then make the bed? And I thought, no. I want to get the bed made. Why would I want to get the bed made? Because I'm a person that makes their bed in the morning. One of the most important things you can do is start out your day by keeping an agreement with yourself and then build on it. Every subsequent agreement you make and keep with yourself, you become a healthier person. So do a tally. Get out your calculator. Really put down on pen and paper, how frequently do you make but not keep agreements with yourself? And that's in the positive or the negative. That's, as we would call it, sins of omission or commission. When do you tell yourself, I'm not going to do a thing? You should be very careful with that. If you say you're not going to do it and then you do it, that's a very dangerous thing. I had a friend of mine that shared with me about a loved one who would talk about, I'm not going to, eat cake at a party or something. Mm-hmm. And then they wind up eating 2,000 or 3,000 calories of cake. Do you know that you're better off saying, you know what, by gosh, I'm going to go to the party and eat cake.
Yeah.
And then you eat the cake. Than
Facts.
saying I'm not going to eat cake, and then you eat the cake when you've already said you're not going to eat the cake. You're actually in a better place saying you're going to do it, even if it's unhealthy. I do that on the weekends. I will give myself permission to eat unhealthy things on Saturday. And that's okay, because the rest of the week I don't. Today I'm going to do a 10K bike ride. Now, I've already told myself I'm going to do that, but now I'm telling you, which is my next tip. Make and keep promises to yourself, and then tell others about those commitments to yourself. You're more likely to keep commitments to yourself when you present when you engage in some accountability by telling Jaine or Elizabeth or Jimmy or Drew or Mary, when you tell others you're going to do it. Write it down on a sheet of paper. You remember going to school, and if you're naughty, you had to write it, 100 times on the chalkboard. I will not put gum in Ruth Munn's hair. I'm not making that up, because I actually did put gum in Ruth Munn's hair on the school bus. I got in trouble for that. Yeah, that was the 5th grade, and I got in trouble. I avoided a paddling back when I was in school. The good old days. You got a paddling and things like that. But the one that caught me was actually became my father-in-law. My father-in-law, or my principal, became my father-in-law later. So I got back at him, for disciplining me, But you would write things down 100 times. Why would you do that? Because in the human brain, repetition equals programming. And so if you're telling yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, you have programmed your brain that you are a liar. The most dangerous kind of lie you can tell yourself to make the road to life tougher is to lie to yourself. And so we're going to move on today with another few questions here. We've got about 25 minutes to go, guys. Go ahead and put your thoughts in the chat. And Jimmy, thank you so much for being here in the chat. I appreciate it. Any thoughts of wisdom or words of wisdom you have, go ahead and drop that on us. I love what Mojo said. The past is the roadmap that shows how I got here, but it does not determine where I go next unless I allow it. Yeah, I mean, the question is, when you find yourself headed the wrong direction in life, the first thing you should look for is an off-ramp to turn your life around. And so I'd like to talk about some of those mindset shifts and how you guys might have surprised yourself with strength that you didn't know that you had. And so I'd like to go to Mary. You know, Mary, what's the thing that really got you out of the cult? You know, I mean, what thought process? How'd you even tackle that?
Well, initially it wasn't even my doing because I was married at the time to somebody from the cult, and I had been programmed to, you know, I mean I didn't even say programmed because as a Christian, you know, you're supposed to honor your husband, so honoring him that he wanted to leave, so you know, obviously, you know, I went with him. The second time, you know, when I went in and I came out was because I realized, man, these people are really trying to control me. They wanted to know all my finances. They wanted to tell me how I should spend my money and everything. So, um, yeah, so that was hard. Now, I kind of want to jump to today because I feel that today in my life today, where I am right now, is when I'm finally starting to realize, you know what? I need to think about me. I've raised two kids. They're in their, 20s, mid 20s and late 20s, and now it's time for me. And yeah, so I actually today, for the very first time in a long time, talking about making your bed, I actually woke up and I did make my bed this morning. I um, I actually paid for I lost my husband 3 years ago, and in the 3 years I went through just hard time of um, chaos in my mind and my home and everything. So I finally said, "This is it." I paid somebody to come and clean my house. I'm so like I love it waking up to a super nice clean house. They made my bed, so I'm like I'm making my bed every day now, you know. And I also hired a health coach to help me with exercise and eating healthy. And so today is my very first day of what I call my self-care program, of learning to eat better, and I've been doing exercise with her and everything. So yeah, I think it's a mindset, and it's a telling yourself enough is enough. For me, has been enough is enough. I still have so many years. My mom lived to 96. I pray to God that I can live, that long. And so I still have at least 30 more years to go. That's a long time. So I got to start somewhere. But and it's never too late. It's never too late. And um you changed the subject, and I had all these notes. I'm like, oh man, I want to talk about this.
You can skip back. Yeah, this is a campfire conversation. You can skip back to any point you'd like. But there's a question, real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we have some fan mail for Elizabeth from Joshua. Big fan of Elizabeth. Awesome to hear from so many other amazing minds today. Thank you so much, Joshua. Also, a wonderful former guest. And then from Mojo, I got the weird acrostic there. which I would say stands for what you reflect, that is, think about, determines. What does it determine? It determines who you are. You know, the weird thing about life is what you reflect is deterministic. And that determinism doesn't come from outside. It's not external locus of control. It's always an inside job. It's what you decide to think about. You know, thoughts are such a powerful thing. But the question is from Sarah, and Mary, you can answer this whenever you're ready. What do you do when someone tells you that they like you, so you think you have standing, but when you confront or challenge something, they kick you out of their life? Love to hear some feedback on that at some point. But Mary, go ahead and jump in anywhere you like with those notes that you took.
Okay. So first of all, I am not a pineapple fan on pizza.
Oh, we're kicking her off. We're kicking her off right now. No, I'm just joking. We're
Okay,
going to
second of all,
convert you, my dear. We're going to convert
I
you.
know. Honestly, it's so funny because I've never really tried it. I just always think that it's not something that I don't
Well,
know.
well, that's
I will have
because
to, I will have to try it.
you're part of the Antipa cult. Antipa is the anti-pineapple pizza advocates.
Totally.
Antipa, Antippa, and we're going to convert you. We're going to save you from the anti-pineapple pizza advocates, so you can live a full life.
I will have to try it, and I will come back and let you know.
Once you try it,
Um,
you'll never go back.
yeah. Second, shout out to my friend Mojo. Mojo and I co-host a show at 8 o'clock Pacific time with Dan. Um, his last name escapes me right now, but Mojo has been such a great influence in my life with his amazing positive um, outlook in life. So if you don't know Mojo, please follow Mojo. He's amazing. And we were talking about that the other day about sometimes we think that people should think like we do, and we get upset if we have people have a different opinion than we do. And you know where I see that a lot is like America. Like Americans always think, oh, we have like the best country, and oh, your country's not as good as our country, and embracing the different cultures. I was born in Puerto Rico, so I have a total different culture than a lot of people. So embracing other cultures, embracing their beliefs, um, being out of the cult and thinking different than what I was taught, growing up, is also is something that I've had to learn. And then the last thing was, if you have kids, they will, you know, tell you that you're not so, you're not always right. You're not so perfect. And I'm an entrepreneur and been since I was 8 years old. I have that mentality. My kids are not like that at all. And I'm always telling my kids, oh, they have amazing talents. And I am always telling them, oh, you should make money with this. You should make money with that. And they look at me like, oh, mom, you and your money thing again. And I don't know if you know Johnny Rockets on X. He told me, they don't have your personality. Don't treat them like they have your personality. They might be more like their dad. And sure enough, their dad was very laid back type of guy. And it doesn't mean that that's wrong. And I had to learn that. To me, that was an aha moment, that my kids don't think like me, even though I wanted them to think like me, and that they think more like their dad. They're more relaxed and everything. And he's still, and he was, he actually played bass for a national band and everything. So he was successful. So it doesn't mean that just because you don't think like me that you're wrong. So there. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. And I want to go back to, before we lose it, Sarah's question, and I'll just kind of weigh in. What do you do when someone tells you that they like you, so you think you have standing, but when you confront or challenge something, they kick you out of their life? Well, Sarah, I would say it depends on what you mean by kick you out of their life. if someone is kicking you, you should call the police in the U.S. because it's illegal to kick people. That's called battery. I'm kind of saying this tongue in cheek because I'm fairly sure that you don't mean they've kicked you in the seat of your pants or anything like that. So the first thing I would do is I would change my own mindset by changing my own wording. Wording is programming, hence the power of NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So unless someone is really kicking me, I typically wouldn't say that they're kicking me. That's just not healthy for my mindset. I think that people don't like to be disagreed with. They don't like to be challenged. And I would choose to think that, unfortunately, maybe they did not have the fuel for that particular journey. So it does take a lot of fuel. It takes a pretty strong mindset, and as well as a fairly engaged relationship before we actually have standing with a person so that they can withstand critique. So it's really two things. It's their mindset and it's your relationship with them. People don't really need a relationship with me to disagree with me, as is evidenced by, well, social media itself. I welcome that because I think that engenders in myself a strong mindset. I view people disagreeing with me as no different than going to the gym and lifting a barbell. You know, I can't do that comfortably. So am I comfortable with people disagreeing? Well, no, but it's good for me. It's good for me. So that is a very particular mindset. And the way I look at it is someone decides to not continue contact with me, which I think that may be what you're talking about, then I think they have that right. I mean, why would they not? Imagine that we had a law, maybe in the U.S., where people could not in contact with others once they have said that they like you or something, that you're literally super glued to them the rest of your life. I mean, you would look like an octopus or something because you'd have 30 people super glued to your back. No, I mean, if you have the right to not talk to people when you prefer not to talk to them, not text or DM them or whatever, well, they have the same right too. And so the next thing I would say is I would pick the thought process that is healthiest for me. Usually that's I have no idea why they're not contacting me. I have no idea why they're not returning phone calls. All I can do is make up crap in my head and make myself miserable. For all I know, they're in the hospital with some type of intestinal parasite or something. Why not think that? Maybe they're dehydrated and they had to go to the hospital. Maybe they've been deported to another country. Maybe they've been kidnapped by aliens. But when you start saying they have kicked me out of their life, well, you're borrowing misery for yourself, which, as a free will guy, I want you to have all the misery you want. I think you're entitled to be miserable, but only if you want. So if you decide not to be miserable, I'd recommend a different way of thinking that begins with the programming power of language. This person is not returning my calls. I don't know why. They're not texting me back. I don't know why. Maybe it's the aliens. Maybe they've been swallowed up by the hollow earth. Maybe they've been, hey, Scotty, they asked to be beamed up and they got beamed up. You know, there was that guy in California years ago that was going to catch a ride on Halley's Comet or something. I don't know that worked out, but maybe they caught a ride on a comet. So I would encourage you, my dear Sarah, Patriot Sarah Storm here, to pick the thought process that supports your life, that doesn't sabotage your life. We get to choose how sabotaging our thoughts really are. I want to go over to Drew and then Elizabeth and talk about in the next 10 minutes here as we begin to wrap up. What's a time in your life that you really shocked yourself? Drew, what do you think? What's a time in your life where you thought, man, I can't believe I pulled that off. I had what it took.
I had a career-ending injury in football in the year of 2000 that basically ended my career. And I had a phone call a couple of years later. Now, the doctors had told me after my spinal cord surgery that it's probably a good idea not to go back and play football. But a couple of years later, I got a phone call from a buddy of mine from the NFL that had just bought a football team down in Washington State, and I didn't think I had it in me anymore. You know, I was off in my new career. I was helping people. I was a valuable person in my community. I was just living. I was living, and this phone call happened, and I was in Kelowna with one of my best buddies that I grew up with, and I didn't believe I had it in me, and I sat there on my buddy's porch, and we were having a cigar because that's what we do every 3 months. We get together and have a cigar, and he just looked at me and he said, "Andrew, this might be the last time. This might be this like you may regret this 20 years from now. You need to make a decision." And you know, him saying you may look back at this 20 years from now. And I always ask people, like, when you were 16, did you ever think you'd have this opportunity? Because everything's an opportunity. So I took it, you know, and I ran with it, and I got healthy, and my back was good, and we went on to win a national title, and it was one of those things. Like, I didn't think I had it in me, but I confronted it through my loved ones, through my close friends and family, and they supported me in my decision, and I went with it. It was probably the hardest decision I made, but it was because it made my career suffer a bit, but that's just a career. A career is not who you are. So I took that opportunity, I ran with it, and man, right, I tell you, man, I'll never forget that team. Those, I think, all the Americans, they called me Mr. Canada. That's my nickname. And you know, we talk we talk every few months. A lot of those guys on that team, and man, it's just a life changer. If you don't take advantage of an opportunity, what happens to that opportunity? It just passes you, you know. So take advantage of anything and everything you can, people. Anything and everything you can. If someone says something to you and you get in your gut, it feels good, don't stop doing it. Eat it, because good is good to eat. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think life is a journey of you know, identity, and you're deciding who you are, and that's not up to critics. And I would point out what I would call identity differentiation. You know, Drew, one of the things I find is that men tend to struggle more with retirement than women do,
100%.
because for men, their career becomes their identity. Now, that's a mistake. Your
Yep.
career is something that made you money, that paid the light bill, you know, that kept a roof over your head. But man, guys, when you let career become your identity, you're making a mistake. Unless you're in a career that you could do until your heart stops beating. You know, most people are going to retire at some point. You're going to get too old to do the work that you're doing. Maybe eventually I will too. You know, I do. I'm in a career that as long as my mouth works, I can do it. You know, but sometimes my wife prays for the opposite. Oh, heaven help us, let that man's mouth stop working. But who knows? I mean, I could have a stroke. My cardiologist, you know, he did a heart cath a decade ago, and he says, well, you know, you're going to die from something, of course, but it's not going to be your heart. And I thought, well, crap. It kind of gets worse from there, because I'm thinking, what's that mean, a stroke or something? And so you just never know. You know, your identity has to be based in firmer stuff. Just ask one of my favorite Superman of all time, Christopher Reeve. You know, his identity could not be Superman because he was not always going to don the cape in a movie. So he had to transition to something else. And then evidently it couldn't be that he had full use of his body, because Christopher Reeve lost that too. So what did he decide his identity was? Well, I think it was being a spokesman for struggle, and a spokesman for survival, and a spokesman for resilience, and a spokesman for those who didn't have the voice that he had, as a superstar superhero. And you know what? He did just that. And so, one of the things I would recommend on the road to life is to stop making excuses. A friend of mine, Gilo, Daryl Greg Lopez, put up a post this morning. Wonderful, wonderful post. Him holding a little baby. And this is a little bit on the nose, I'll admit, but this was my response. He said, "We need more babies, you know." And I said, "Well, you know, brother, if you're talking about humans that whine and moan and complain, you've come to the right place, because social media is full of them. If that's the kind of babies you're talking about, you've come to the right place. Social media is full of them. All that whining and complaining and pointing your finger at someone else, expecting them to help your life be better, is a waste of time. Expecting the world to rotate a different direction because you want the breeze to flow east instead of west, or west instead of east, waste of time. And you'll get to your final breath and you'll see how big a waste that is. So I encourage you guys, as we wrap up today, to look for ways to surprise yourself with strength. It's there. It may be ignored, but it's there. It's been there all along. Look for those moments that you shock yourself, and then build on it, and then build on it. So I want to kind of go back and wrap it up with, we'll go to Mary, then Elizabeth, and then Jaine, on ways that you surprised yourself with your strength. What do you think, Mary?
Well, one of the most obvious ones was surviving my life after a cult, and then also surviving the death of my husband. That was a shock, because my mom also passed away last year, but she was 96. So you prepare your heart for that, but you don't prepare your heart when somebody that's your partner dies suddenly like that. And so yeah, I would picture myself days after that. I would picture myself with these plates spinning on these poles, and if I drop one, that I would lose it all. I would just lose my mind. And so I just kept going and just kept going and just kept going and just kept going. I mean, it's taken 3 years where I finally feel like I'm on the other side. I mean, I still mourn him and everything, and I miss him, but I know that he wants me to, have a healthy life. So yeah, it just took the time to mourn, took the time to just kind of detach myself a little bit from life. But I just needed to get back. I needed to get back to, now this portion of my life is about me, and I'm expecting to do some traveling and doing some things that I love to do, that I left behind when I had my kids. A lot of times we lose ourselves. That's one of the things I was going to say too. Moms are number one of losing themselves, because we invest so much of our personality into our kids. And I remember at one time I was thinking, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like, I don't know what kind of food I like, or what things I like to do, because I had lost myself into being a wife, into being, a mom. And yeah, so now I'm excited about this part of my life. And so, yes, that's.
Mary, that is so key. That is so key. Get out there and get excited about your life.
Mhm.
That's one of the things I love the most. Find some crazy thing to get excited about. I'm excited about unexpected things happening. And I laugh at unexpected, non-preferred things that happen. One of my top level tips is to find a humor in the unexpected. Like Drew yawning out loud there. I think that's hilarious. Drew, it's good to see you, my friend. I'm going to have to yawn too.
The sun just came up here in the West Coast.
It's really early where Drew is, but I just have fun with life. Life is too short to be boring, Do
Yeah.
funny, interesting things that you can find joy and humor in. And so, yeah, thank you so much. And I do appreciate Drew. But yeah, Elizabeth, what at such a young age, Elizabeth, what's some a way that you surprised yourself with maybe a strength that you did not know that you had?
I was thinking about that while everyone was talking, and my answer is coming from the childhood. So I realized it only like short time ago when I was in therapy that I always had like a chronic pain in my like jaw, and it was kind of like caused by some events that were happening like at school, whatever, and it like continued for many years. And so the thing is that. For me it became so normal in a way that like I kept doing everything that I used to do, even though I couldn't talk for like many days, I couldn't sleep, painkillers never helped, and then it kind of like went away. So I don't know, something changed. But yeah, looking back right now, I can't even imagine myself like right now, even when I have headache, I'm like, I'm done, I'm not working today. Like, what do you mean? But back then it was like completely different. So yeah, that was it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And before we go to Jane, I just have to put this on the screen. Hitch is here, and Hitch says that he loves my sense of humor. And so, if I got the tally right, there is now a total of one people on the planet that like my sense of humor. Oh, wait a minute. I have another vote. 99 says that they love my humor too. So the numbers are headed in the right direction. There's now a total of 2 people on the planet that appreciate my sense of humor. You guys can join in and cast your vote also. Jane, what's a time in your life where your strength surprised even you?
Oh my gosh. Well, one of the things about the topic here is hitting the wall, right? And I've hit the wall several times in my life, and my strength is the fact that sometimes it's a weakness. I am stubborn, and I'm very determined, and I just break through those walls. I, like I might fall for a little bit and I
Mm-hmm.
might lick my wounds for a little bit, but then I get up and say, no, not today, Satan. I am taking care of business. I've got something I got to do. And I always remember a sign I always used to see: when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And I'm one of those people. I am tough, and I know that. I've got grit.
And I love what you said, Jane, because people get that wrong. It's okay to take a breather, but I think it should be measured. I think it should be planned. I think there needs to be a deadline, an appointment you set with yourself that I'm going to get my butt up off the couch and move forward. But taking a break, gosh, I do that every Saturday after my Saturday space, right after my weekly SOS, Space on Spaces on X. I take a break. I may. This weekend I vegged out watching for probably the 100th time Jodie Foster in the wonderful movie Contact, which is such an existential movie. It really is. Man, I get chills every time I watch it. A young Matthew McConaughey. Oh, I have another vote. Joshua says there's now a total of 3 people that think I'm funny. So again, I think that the statistics are going in the right way. You guys keep it up. I may be funny before the day is over, or at least by popular vote. I want to thank all you guys for being here today. All 99, thank you. I appreciate that. That's so kind. Thank you so much. And oh, look at this, Monette. See, you guys, I can't promise you the check in the mail, but if you ever come by, I'll be glad to make you a latte. So I want to go around the room really quick and have you guys tell our audience where they could get in touch with you. Where can they find most of your content? Drew, where can folks find you for the most part?
Interestingly enough, yesterday I didn't realize I had a TikTok account, but a lady by the name of Booker T. Jones, and her son is Nick Shirley. They were here and interviewed me. That's over 200,000 views on TikTok. So I've got a TikTok account now, and I've got my YouTube account and also my X account. So it's DrewCouver56. I can also be found on my website, bromeconsulting.ca. Thank you.
Awesome. Mary, where can, oh, let me get back to the full screen here. Mary, where can folks find you mostly?
So I'm also Mary in all the platforms, and it's AWSM Mary. And you can find me on X. I run a karaoke space almost every night. I found karaoke singing a year ago, and I love it now. And it's my way to de-stress at the end of the day. Usually, I do it at night.
What's your
On
favorite karaoke song that you sing?
my favorite karaoke song, I always start with "Yesterday" from the Beatles. Um,
Yesterday.
yes,
I
but
know the
I
first
have
word of that
plenty
song.
others. So yeah, you can find me there. Absolutely.
I didn't know that you did that. Yeah, that's great. What time of night is it?
Anytime after 8 p.m. Mountain Time. I think I
8
always find
p.m.
that
Mountain
before that
Time.
it's yeah, before that
What
it's
city is it? It's a weird thing with time
in
zones.
Colorado.
I'll say CST, Central Standard Time, and people will get more votes. I didn't even ask for these votes, but thank you guys. You're so kind. I'm kind of wondering if you're telling me I'm funny because you like me or I'm really funny. Now, my wife and son will say, "Dad, nobody thinks you're funny, but people do sometimes like you." I tell dad jokes and I'm told to quit it. As they say in this, as the scripture says, a prophet hath no honor in his own country, and evidently that applies to comedians as well. But yeah, so on the time zone thing, what city is Mountain Standard Time?
I am
Colorado?
I'm outside of Denver, Colorado.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, Colorado. So I think you're 7:36 right now.
7:36,
Hey,
yes.
you're an hour behind me. I'm an hour in your future.
That's right.
So when you get here, I
It's
will have all the
promising.
jokes. All the jokes. Elizabeth, tell us where folks can find you.
Just follow me on Twitter, on X, come to my spaces, and that's it. That will be more than enough.
There you go, Elizabeth. Lots of spaces on relationships. I love what Elizabeth does because she has these freaky questions that she asks people, and she'll say, "So, Dr. Heath," and what comes next is kind of like whatever she pulls out of the, pulling rabbits out of a hat. And so, 99 says, "I sing California Dreaming." That's one of my favorite songs from the 70s, 99. Gosh, you and I are dating ourselves. Yeah, California Dreaming. I think that's the Mamas and Papas. I think Mama Cass sang that.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
yes.
is. Yes, it
Mama
is.
Cass, yeah. Tragic end. As I heard that she choked to death on a peanut butter sandwich. I'm not making that up. That's just what I heard back in the day. Is that yeah, death by choking. What a way to go.
Oh,
Richard says, "I would join the Doctor's Funny Crew." Yes, Richard, you also can tell jokes and be criticized for telling them. So yes, you're always welcome, my friend. Jaine, where can folks reach you? What's your gig on X? What do you spend most of your time doing, and where can folks contact you?
oh. Well, I spend a lot of time with the AI Jam community. You can probably find me a lot often in a tech space or AI space, and I am going to be hosting my very first space on May 11th I mean, I've hosted before, but I'm going solo. So May 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a Sunday. And we will be talking about bridging the gap between humanity and AI. And it's going to be a series. So it's only going to be once a month because I do a lot of research to get ready for it. And I just want to have a good conversation about why not AI and how do we roll it out to humanity in a way that everybody will prosper.
That's amazing. Scary things happening in AI. Jane, I think I'm going to break down and have an AI space also with a psychological slant on it
Mhm.
because, oh crap, what is his name? And for the life of me, I can't remember. He writes lots of articles on psychology today. I
John
follow.
Nasta. John
John
Knopfler.
wrote. I mean, it caught my attention. The similarities between how humans think, and there's a certain amount of source amnesia, I would call it, subconsciously, where we don't know where those thoughts came from. And AI scientists and programmers will program things. Then there's an output. If you even use AI, there's an output, and you kind of wonder, well, gosh, how did AI get that thing from that prompt? I gave a prompt. Why did it come up with one thing versus another? And even AI scientists can't explain that. They can't go back and reverse engineer and say, oh, well, you got this prompt because of this daisy chain of, computer activity or programming activity. So it's getting kind of scary. Hey there,
Yeah,
Mojo.
well, by the
Yeah, go ahead,
way,
Jay.
AI isn't any more conscious than your toaster.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, consciousness is a whole other thing. We've not yet decoded, what human consciousness is. How can we begin to talk about AI consciousness? Mojo, man, I'm with you. That's one of my favorite songs. Memphis, Tennessee is about an hour that way. An hour that way. If that way to you is east. But Walking to Memphis, a song by Mark Cohn. I love that song. I've loved it since I first heard it. Then I'm walking in Memphis. Was walking with my feet 10 feet off of Beale. Been on Beale Street many, many times, so maybe I'll practice that song and sing it. But man, all those streets, Union Avenue, been there 1,000 times. Home of Elvis Presley and Graceland. Yeah, great song. So, AwsmMary, keep up the work, and I'll try to get on your karaoke space
Yeah,
if I.
and I want to say Mojo is an amazing entertainer and singer, and he does come to my spaces often. So yeah, come on out, guys.
Yeah,
Come
drop
on
a
out.
link. Drop a link to your next space.
Absolutely,
Put it. Put
absolutely,
it.
I will.
Put it
Yeah.
in the chat there. And I really want to say thank you guys so much. Yoki, thank you for that post there. It's so refreshing to listen to this wonderful, intelligent group of people speak with you. And notice that Yoki didn't say anything about any jokes. You see, this is what I mean. I get no respect. I get no respect for all the wonderful jokes that I come up with. But I think that they may be not much, but a step above Hitch's Italian pasta jokes. But I decided to let that go. I'm past all that. I'm past all that. I'm not going to bring it up again. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining. We'll catch you next time. Drew, AwsmMary, Elizabeth, Jaine, Jimmy couldn't be here, but you're all wonderful people. Go out, have a great week. We'll catch you next time, guys. Bye bye
Thank you
now.
for the privilege. Thank you for the
Bye
privilege.
bye.